Happy Monday, church. Wanted to reach out to you and just share a brief thought with you. First, let me say, I missed seeing all of you yesterday. I missed worshiping with you in one place yesterday. But I do know that God's presence was with each and every one of us, and we all experienced a powerful Resurrection Sunday together. My thought for you today goes along with something I've probably shared with you in the past. And it would be in this regards. God is not surprised by where we find ourselves today, no more than he was surprised when he robed himself in flesh and came to this earth and we rejected him, when we nailed him to the cross, and when we buried him in a borrowed tomb. He was no more surprised then than he is today. He wasn't. He knew what was going to happen. And he is using these moments for his glory and to draw all people to him. So this morning, let me say this to you. The psalmist says in Psalms 13, in my daily devotional reading today, the psalmist said, "How long wilt thou forget me, O Lord?" He's asking the question of God. And he goes on to say, "How long will you hide your face from me?" And then he goes on to say, will you wait so long that my enemies would rejoice over the fact that I'm suffering? But then he makes a statement. And he says, "But I have trusted in thy mercy." I have trusted in your mercy, and my heart will rejoice in thy salvation. He goes on to say, he says, "I will sing unto the Lord, because he has dealt bountifully with me." In the midst of the psalmist's trouble, he had questions for God. But he understood that God was still faithful, that God was still worthy of worship. And so in spite of what he was facing, he lifted up worship and praise to God. I would say this to you today. He deserves our praise. He has been real good to us. He has been faithful to us. And so today, remember to give God thanks. Remember to remind him of how much you love him and how much you care for him and desire to be near to him. Because I would say this, there is a crisis around us. The crisis is really one of fear. Fear that we're not going to make it out of this. Fear that we're not going to see the other side. Fear that we're going to run out of basic supplies and essentials. But really, here's what we ought to be focusing on. God has opened a door for us to share the hope of the message of the cross with those that are around us. And today, God has been real good to me. We may be enduring some things right now, but we're going to be all right. We're going to come out of this. And I want to make sure that whatever God's plan and purpose is for this moment of time, that I stay focused on what my mission is. Let me remind you of our theme for this year. Our theme was one word, and it was empower. And we were going to see empowerment come in our lives in three ways: revelation, impartation, and release. We spent some time at the beginning of this year dealing with this topic of revelation. We spent time understanding who God was and is in context to who we are and who we should be. We understood that God loved us so much that he was willing to continue to make investments in our lives that we might become who he wants us to be. Why? That he might be able to work through us as he desires. The second phase of this year's theme is that of impartation, and we pursue God for understanding and wisdom and knowledge of what it is we should be doing. We want to have gifts provided to us that we might then also be able to do the things more perfectly and more capably to reach our world during this time. And then the last piece was that of release. that we might be released into our world, into our harvest field, reaping that harvest for the glory of God. Now we find ourselves quarantined. We find ourselves safer at home. We find ourselves not being able to gather together like we normally would. But can I just tell you, these three phases of empower are happening right now. Right now, God is working on each of us, shaping us, molding us, perfecting us. He is releasing things to us into our lives, imparting things to us that we might better reach those around us with this message of hope. So today I say this: you are released. Go reach your world. Go share the message of hope and glad tidings that a Savior has come, that He is alive, and that He loves each and every one of us. And that if we would respond to His call of love, we would find ourselves in His care. That we would find ourselves being directed by Him. So church, I love you. Melissa loves you. We miss you desperately and cannot wait to gather together again. But I will remind you, we are not going to come back to church like we left. I pray, God, let this moment of time forever change us, that as we continue to move through our lives, that our focus will be on our mission, that we, as the local church, would rise up as the only hope for our world today. I love you, God bless you, and I pray that the remainder of your week is blessed. Lastly, please do not forget, join us. Text PRAY30 to 414-253-8080, and let's together begin to petition heaven for the rains of harvest, that we might see harvest gathered for the glory of God. I love you. God bless.